Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first take a look at some of the top stories. Hamas will likely release 33 hostages as part of a potential ceasefire deal with Israel. US President Joe Biden says a truce is on the brink after 15 months of intense fighting in Gaza following the 7th of October attacks. Russia has accused Ukraine of energy terrorism and say they pose a threat to Europe's energy sector. This comes after Ukrainian drones targeted a Russian gas pipeline and the US imposed further sanctions on Russian oil and tankers. The president of the International Court of Justice, Nawaf Salam, has been named as Lebanon's new prime minister. 2/3 of MPs voted for Salam, who will return to the country on Tuesday. The trial of impeached South Korean President Yoon has been adjourned after he failed to attend court. The suspended president missed the trial, which comes after his failed martial law bid. In a hopeful sign of progress, Hamas is set to release 33 hostages as part of a potential ceasefire agreement that is apparently nearing completion. On the other hand, Qatar's emir met with US envoys from both the Biden and Trump administrations, expressing optimism that a truce could soon be finalised. Here is the latest.
On the war between Israel and Hamas, we're on the brink of a proposal that I laid out in detail months ago, finally coming to fruition.
Hamas is set to release 33 hostages as part of a ceasefire agreement nearing completion, offering hope for a resolution after a long term of conflict. For the first time in months, negotiators in Doha are finalizing a deal that could halt the 15-month-long fighting, bring humanitarian aid to Gaza, and secure the return of hostages. However, Hamas still holds 94 of the 251 hostages taken during the October 7th attack, with 34 confirmed dead. Qatar's emir met with Biden and Trump's envoys to discuss the progress, and both administrations expressed optimism for a deal. The ceasefire could soon be finalized, marking a turning point in the ongoing crisis.
And we are now at a pivotal point in the negotiations for a hostage deal and ceasefire in Gaza. The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday and just got off the phone with the Emir of Qatar. He'll be speaking soon also with President Sisi of Egypt. We are close to a deal, and it can get done this week. I'm not making a promise or a prediction, but it is there for the taking, and we are going to work to make it happen.
Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes on Gaza City have killed over 50 people, with emergency teams and locals searching the rubble for survivors and rushing the injured to Al-Ali Hospital.
قدام ناري كبير عدة ضربات في هذا المكان عدة صواريخ أو عدة ضربات في هذا المكان تم قصفه وتسويته بالأرض بالكامل.
As the world watches closely, a ceasefire could mark a critical turning point in the long-running conflict, offering hope for a peaceful resolution. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now take a look at some news updates from across Europe. EU leaders will meet in Belgium on February the 3rd for a key defence summit joined by UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. The talks will focus on boosting Europe's defence capabilities and addressing the threat from Russia. With Donald Trump's return to power, EU and UK leaders are preparing for a shift in US policy. Topics will include support for Ukraine, private and public defence financing, and deepening EU-UK security ties. This meeting will shape future EU defence strategies and cooperation. Russia and Iran are set to sign a comprehensive strategic partnership treaty on January the 17th. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian will visit Moscow for official talks with Vladimir Putin. The two leaders will discuss expanding cooperating in trade, investment, transport, logistics and humanitarian efforts. Both nations face heavy Western sanctions. The treaty follows a similar agreement Putin signed with North Korea last year. This deal strengthens military and political ties between Moscow and Tehran amid ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. UK PM Sir Keir Starmer has unveiled plans to position Britain as an AI superpower. Speaking after launching the AI Opportunities Action Plan, Starmer vowed to ease regulations and attract AI investment. The plan includes 50 recommendations to improve AI in public services like healthcare and education. Starmer emphasised a pro-growth, pro-innovation approach to AI regulation, setting the UK apart from EU and US strategies. A national data library will also be created, providing public data for AI research. An inquest has revealed that mechanical failure caused the helicopter crash that killed Leicester City owner Vichai and 4 others in October 2018. A duplex bearing the tail of rotor became seized and locked, causing the aircraft to lose control. The pilot, Eric Swaffer, tried to correct the situation but could not prevent the fatal crash. The family described him as a good man with a good heart. The family has also launched a £2.15 billion legal action against the helicopter's manufacturers. The inquest is set to last 2 to 3 weeks. King Charles III will attend a ceremony in Poland to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. The visit will be the first to the former Nazi concentration camp for the British monarch. Ahead of January the 27th, Charles will meet with community leaders in Krakow and Polish President Andrzej Duda. The camp remains a symbol of Nazi atrocities where 6 million European Jews were killed. Several international delegations are expected at the ceremony, including Israeli officials, despite political tensions. A nationwide strike in Belgium over pension reforms has disrupted flights, trains and schools. Brussels Airport saw 40% of flights cancelled and Charleroi Airport halted departures due to a shortage of security staff. Rail services were also heavily affected, with just 1 in 3 trains running. Teachers joined the strike, particularly in Flanders. The protest is against pension cuts proposed by the new government, including raising the retirement age for railway workers. Unions are demanding action and will hold a demonstration in Brussels today. North Korea has fired multiple short-range ballistic missiles in an apparent provocative move, potentially escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. South Korea has condemned the launch, warning of an overwhelming response to further provocations as international concerns grow ahead of the US presidential inauguration. Here is a report.
In a provocative move, North Korea fired multiple short-range ballistic missiles off its east coast this morning, with the launch taking place from Ganggi, near the country's border with China. The missiles traveled about 250 kilometers, reaching a distance of 155 miles, and were launched around 9:30 a.m. local time. However, South Korea's military has strongly condemned the action, labeling it a serious threat to peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. The country's Joint Chiefs of Staff has warned North Korea against misjudging the situation, vowing to respond overwhelmingly to any further provocations. South Korea's acting President Choi Sang-mok has also expressed condemnation, calling it a violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions and signaling a stern response. This latest missile test comes just days before the inauguration of US President-elect Donald Trump, a time when tensions are running high. South Korean lawmakers have suggested that Pyongyang's recent missile tests may be aimed at drawing attention to its deterrent against the US and sending a message to the incoming Trump administration. Meanwhile, Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi has confirmed Japan's awareness of the launch. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now take a look at some of the latest updates from North America. The US Department of Labor has reached an agreement with JBS USA. This deal will provide $4 million in assistance to those affected by child labour practices. Investigations revealed that JBS's third-party contractors employed children in hazardous jobs at meatpacking plants in Colorado, Iowa, Minnesota and Nebraska. The deal aims to address these unlawful practices. A team of 72 Mexican firefighters met with US fire officials on Monday. They joined American firefighters to help fight the wildfires in Southern California. The team includes military specialists, doctors, engineers, and search and rescue experts. It also has firefighters from Mexico's equivalent of the US Forest Service. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced an economic plan to reduce imports from China. This move seemed to address US President-elect Donald Trump's claims that Mexico is a gateway for Chinese goods. Sheinbaum also defended the US-MCA trade deal. She stated it was the best way for Mexico to compete with China. The agreements will be reviewed in 2026. Outgoing US President Joe Biden warned climate change skeptics in incoming President Donald Trump's administration, calling them dead wrong. In a State Department speech, Biden emphasized that climate change is the single greatest existential threat to humanity. He criticized those who deny its reality and implied the urgency of winning the clean energy race against China. Following the implementation of a $9 congestion charge in New York City on January the 5th, traffic has decreased. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority reported that nearly 275,000 fewer cars entered the central business district from Monday to Friday. This signals a 7.5% drop compared to projected weekday traffic. This is the first congestion fee of its kind in the US. David Weiss, the special prosecutor who investigated Hunter Biden, criticised President Joe Biden for making baseless accusations about the case. In a final report, Weiss defended his impartial investigation into Hunter's gun and tax crimes, stating it was not politically motivated. Hunter's lawyer argued that the case highlighted the abuse of prosecutorial power. Nawaf Salam, president of the International Court of Justice, has been appointed Lebanon's new prime minister. Coming from a prominent Sunni family and advocating for reform, he faces Lebanon's ongoing crises, including economic turmoil and recent conflicts with Israel. Here's a full report about his selection and his journey.
Nawaf Salam, president of the ICJ, has been named Lebanon's new prime minister by President Joseph Aoun. He is tasked with forming a new government to address escalating political and geopolitical tensions in the country. Salam comes from a prominent Sunni family in Beirut. His uncle played a key role in Lebanon's independence from France in 1943 and served multiple terms as prime minister. His cousin, Tamam, was also prime minister from 2014 to 2016. He holds doctorates in political science from Sciences Po and history from the Sorbonne, along with a Master of Law from Harvard. Salam worked as a lawyer and lecturer before serving as Lebanon ASEAN representative from 2007 to 2017. In 2018, he joined the ICJ and was elected president last February. His appointment is another setback for Hezbollah due to its recent war with Israel and loss of Syrian ally Bashar al-Assad. Hezbollah had sought to reappoint Mikati but ended up nominating no candidate. However, Christian and Sunni allies of Hezbollah did support Salam. 2/3 of the 128 members of parliament nominated the 71-year-old judge for the position reserved for a Sunni Muslim under a sectarian power-sharing system during consultations with newly elected President Joseph Aoun. New PM is viewed by many as a glimmer of hope following the 14-month Israel-Hezbollah war that resulted in 4,000 deaths and more than 16,000 injuries, causing destruction worth hundreds of millions of dollars. A Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now time for the latest updates from across the Indo-Pacific region. New rules aim to prevent adversaries, especially China and Russia, from using advanced AI for military or surveillance. The US has introduced regulations to limit AI chip exports, affecting companies like Nvidia. These restrictions could impact the global AI chip market. China criticizes the US export rules as a violation of international trade. Beijing's Ministry of Commerce plans to take action to protect Chinese interests. Former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Khaleda Zia urges elections by August. She cited rising political and economic instability. Zia called for the interim government, led by Mohammed Yunus, to focus on national interests. Former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned after mass protests and sought refuge in India. Hasina and her party face legal issues, with many leaders in hiding. Her son, Sajib Wazed, supports elections by early 2026, as suggested by the army chief. Indonesia plans a minimum age for social media users to protect children following Australia's ban on users under the age of 16. The specific age is still under discussion. With a population of around 280 million people, 79.5% of them use the internet. Nearly half of Indonesian children under the age of 12 are online, using apps like Facebook and TikTok. Among Gen Z users aged 12 to 27, this usage is at 87%. China's coastal sea temperatures hit a record 21.5 degrees Celsius in 2024, marking a second year of rise. Temperatures surpassed pre-industrial levels by 1.5 degrees Celsius, challenging the Paris Agreement limits. The country experienced extreme weather, including Super Typhoon Yagi and Shanghai's strongest storm since 1949. The government will closely monitor global sea temperatures this year. Following the earthquake that hit Tibet nearly a week ago, 2 Buddhist monasteries have been severely damaged, as claimed by state media. Many monks and nuns were injured, but the numbers are yet to be known. A 6.8 magnitude earthquake destroyed roofs and walls near Tingri County. Over 3,600 homes collapsed, with 126 people dying. Rescue teams have saved trapped nuns and moved them to temporary shelters. Apparent Chinese censorship raises doubts about casualty reports. Russia and Vietnam have signed a nuclear energy agreement during Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin's visit. Vietnam is reviving its nuclear energy plans, shelved in 2016 due to costs and safety concerns. This initiative aims for energy self-sufficiency and emission reduction by 2050. Russia, facing declining arms orders due to sanctions because of their war with Ukraine, agreed to transfer a scientific research vessel. US President Joe Biden has said the federal government is covering most costs associated with fires for the next 180 days. However, he has urged Congress to cover the additional costs of rebuilding homes in LA. Watch now as we take a look at the latest updates on the Los Angeles fire.
While speaking on the ravaging Los Angeles fire, US President Joe Biden has said that rebuilding Los Angeles neighborhoods' smoldering ruins will carry a staggering cost in the billions of dollars.
It's going to cost tens of billions of dollars to get Los Angeles back to where it was. So we're going to need Congress to step up to provide funding to get this done. And we're going to get that done, God willing.
Biden also assured the public that his administration is closely monitoring the situation. The fires centered in Los Angeles have claimed 24 lives so far, with about 16 people still missing. The ongoing wildfire has displaced nearly 2 lakh residents and scorched over 39,000 acres of land, an area roughly to 2.5 times the size of Manhattan. Most fatalities occurred in the Eaton fire, while the Palisades fire accounted for 8 deaths. Amid this, there is some relief for the college and schoolgoers, as hundreds of thousands of children went back to classrooms. However, damaged schools and those in evacuation zones remained closed. As the investigation of the Los Angeles fire progresses, 9 people have been charged with looting in no-go areas. While questions continue to rise against the local authorities, the search for victims of the wildfire continue. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now for some news from the world of business. 10-year US Treasury yields hit 14-month highs. This caused the dollar to rise and sparked a sell-off in tech stocks. The impact spread to Asia, with Japan's Nikkei falling after a holiday break. US inflation data remained a key concern. The 10-year yield steadied at 4.77%. US equity futures showed modest gains early in Asia. Supertanker freight rates surged after the US expanded sanctions on Russian oil. Traders rushed to book ships for supplies to China and India. Chinese and Indian refiners are seeking alternative fuel sources. They are adjusting to stricter US sanctions on Russian oil producers and tankers. The sanctions aim to reduce Russia's oil revenue. Day trader Lu Delong's optimism for a China stock rally quickly faded early in January. Just months after positioning for a surge fueled by Beijing's stimulus package, he was forced to sell shares and record losses. Many retail investors like Lu followed suit, leading to the weakest start for the year for China's $11 trillion stock market in nearly a decade. According to the Financial Times, the European Commission is reassessing its investigations into tech giants like Apple, Meta and Google. The companies have urged President-elect Donald Trump to challenge EU regulations, with sources suggesting his presidency impacted the review, though it was not the trigger. Bloomberg reported that Chinese officials are in early talks about selling TikTok's US operations to Elon Musk if a ban is imminent. While Beijing prefers ByteDance retain control, the future of TikTok is in the US may involve either a competitive sale or a government-led arrangement, signalling that ByteDance's control could be at risk. Traders were encouraged by reports that the new US leader's team may raise tariffs gradually, which help limit the dollar's surge. AI chip restrictions on China had little effect. Concerns about tax cuts, deregulation and immigration could boost inflation. As a result, traders reduced expectations for Fed cuts in 2025, with some even predicting a hike. President Joe Biden laid out his foreign policy doctrine on Monday in a sweeping speech just a week before he leaves office. He laid out his argument for staying the course just days before the return of President-elect Donald Trump, who has vowed to steer the ship in a different direction. Let's take a look at the updates.
United States President Joe Biden has delivered a soaring speech defending his administration's foreign policy, just days before President-elect Donald Trump is set to take office. Monday's address, delivered at the State Department, served as a coda for Biden's 4 years in office. He had pledged to re-establish US leadership on the global stage, pursue a foreign policy centered on human rights and rally alliances.
In these 4 years, we faced crises that we've been tested. We've come through those tests stronger, in my view, than we entered those tests. This is a fierce competition underway. The future of the global economy, technology, human values, and so much else. Right now, in my view, thanks to our administration, the United States is winning the worldwide competition.
Critics, however, have given his administration poor marks in several areas, particularly with regards to US support for Israel's war on Gaza. Still, the outgoing president sought to drive home a defining message that the US is more powerful and its enemies weaker than before he entered the White House.
It's clear. My administration is leaving the next administration with a very strong hand to play. And we're leaving them in America with more friends and stronger alliances, whose adversaries are weaker and under pressure. An America that once again is leading, uniting countries, setting the agenda, bringing others together behind our plans and visions.
Biden spoke just 7 days before Trump's inauguration on January 20th. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now take a look at some of the latest updates from across South America. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has signed a bill restricting the use of smartphones in schools. The move has affected students at elementary and high schools across Brazil. It is set to take effect in February. The bill provides a legal framework to ensure students use devices only in emergencies or for educational purposes. It also allows for exceptions if students have disabilities and require them. Chile's lower house has approved a bill to expand electricity subsidies for lower-income families. This follows the removal of a measure that would have raised parts of the required funds by curbing profits in the renewable energy industry. According to Brazilian rescue officials, torrential rains in southeast Brazil caused deadly landslides, killing at least 10 people. 9 victims were from Ipatinga, where 80 millimetres of rain fell in just 1 hour. Firefighters recovered the body of an 8-year-old boy from a destroyed house. Another landslide swept away everything in its path along a street in the Bethania neighbourhood. Brazil's government has given Meta until Monday to explain changes to its fact-checking program. The move follows Meta scrapping its US fact-checking program and loosening restrictions on topics like immigration and gender identity. Solicitor General Messias criticised Meta's shifting policies. President Da Silva called the changes extremely serious and announced a meeting to discuss them. Costa Rica, Ecuador, Panama and the Dominican Republic rejected Nicolas Maduro's inauguration for a third term, calling the event a result of electoral fraud and state terror. The 4 countries, part of the Alliance for Development in Democracy, condemned the January 10th ceremony. Opposition candidate Edmundo González Urita claimed victory in the July 28th elections, labelling the inauguration a coup d'état. That is all we have time for. We'll be back very soon with more of your latest international news.